Hey, we're back. This time we're going to be looking at the StuG G expansion from tanks from Gale Force 9. This one's personally my favorite tank. I absolutely love this thing. Play it all the time in World of Tanks, as well as wherever else I can get my hands on it. So I had to buy a couple of these to add them to my German platoon. And we'll get right in and take a look. So as with the other expansions, there isn't too much in these other than the tanks themselves. Do come with a few extra add-on parts. Again, as with all the others, the instructions are very limited on how to put just the basics on. They do tell you how to put on the side skirt armor if you want it, but that's about it. They don't tell you where any of the optional extras go, or even the various barrels and things for this one. So for our spruces, we have a lower hull here. We actually have two upper hulls, which is kind of weird because it's not like the Panther where you have noticeable differences. But this does have slight differences, if you can tell. Like right here is the mount for the machine gun on the classic model, which also has this shock absorber here in the back straight. That's how I tell them apart. This one had a, I think it's a 50 cal mounted up there. And that's the classic late model version. The later in the war version of it had, if you notice, the shocks diagonal on this one. I'm not sure if that's the way it was on the real one or they just did that to differentiate them, but the mount up here is different. This one had a remote controlled machine gun, so somebody didn't have to go outside and manually fire the thing, which was kind of cool. That's really the only difference, though, visually between the two hulls. Then we have our guns. You have the late war model gun and the early war model gun of the same, I want to say that's the 105. Someone will correct me out there. Then we have our early version of the machine gun. There's the late version of the remote machine gun. A couple different hatch options with it open. On the other side here we have our tracks, some fuel tanks, and an ammo crate. This is the armor plating that goes under the barrel. This goes on the back of the crew cabinet. And you have a couple extra track sections. Not sure what that one is. Well, it's actually the rear hull. And then some spare wheels, which go on the back. They actually mount up here on these pegs on the back hull. And then our side plating. Not too many options on here other than the shorter long barrel of the guns and then early late model basically. For cards, we have our StuG G. This is the exact same card that came in the starter box. They don't have different variants for the shorter long barrel, which is kind of disappointing, but got our Blitzkrieg rule for being a German tank. Nothing else on there's anything spectacular. Cheap and effective tank, though, with a decent gun. For our StuG upgrades, we've got Joseph Wilhelm Rettmeyer. And as I recall, he's actually a famous commander. I've heard the name before. And he's going to give you a +2 initiative in the shooting phase. And you get to reroll on attack die. Rerolls are always nice. 6 points, a little steep, but given the bonus to initiative really helps. And the rest of our stuff in here is just generic sharpshooter gunner, aggressive commander, bigger hammer, and concrete armor, all of which were in the starter box. So, decent little package there to build a pretty mean machine if you put them all on there. And here for reference is my already built StuG. This one's the late model with the old style machine gun on the top, and of course the older turret. Again, that's pretty much everything you're going to get. The set does come with only one tank. I have the second one in there assembled just for reference. You are only going to get one. You do get the two upper hulls, but there's really no reason to even swap them back and forth like you did with the Panther, because they're both pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference is one is the early model with the 50 cal mount, and the other one is the late model with the remote control gun mount on there. Other than that, they're identical. Game-wise, they function identical, so it's just a matter of making them look different to whatever your likings are. And overall, though, it's a great tank. It's one of my favorite ones. Game-wise, it's dirt cheap, so you can field a lot of them. One thing to keep in mind, though, is the fire arcs on these assault guns are quite a bit different than the standard tanks, where tanks rotate their turrets and have a 360-degree arc. Assault guns have a fixed turret that can only shoot directly forward. So as far as game terms go, anything that is in front of the front plane of your tank can be shot at, and anything that is within the left to right directly in front of your tank can be shot at. So, I think they have to be completely in front of that line, or any part of them in a line directly forward from either corner of the front. I believe that's how the ruling is. So any tank that's completely in front of the front plane of your tank, so anything in front of this line completely, you'll be able to shoot at, and anything that even in part is inside of this line here. Those are a little crooked, but you get the idea. So anything, any part of it, so if there's a tank here off to your side with just a corner sticking in there, you'll be able to shoot them, or anything in general that's in front of that plane of your tank there. So worth keeping that in mind. They do have a limited fire arc. However, they have that blitzkrieg move, so at the end of the turn they can make a blitzkrieg to rotate or back up or do whatever to reposition to get the gun where they want. They do have a fairly low initiative, which is probably their biggest weakness, but proper positioning of them and the fact that they're so cheap points wise and you can field multiples of them more than make up for that. Overall, though, they're a great tank. Their cheap points cost means you can swarm them, you can have a bunch of them out there and do massive damage with them. I found I don't have very many of these, but a few of these backing up a Tiger or something like that can really ruin somebody's day. And with the right upgrade cards, you can make them pretty mean little tanks. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the StuG. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.